Welcome to our deep dive into the minds and lives of some of the most notorious and chilling figures in history. From cold-blooded murderers to sinister cult leaders, their stories have both horrified and fascinated the world. Today, we uncover the dark tales of these infamous individuals. Ed Gein, a name synonymous with horror. A notorious murderer and body snatcher, Gein's gruesome activities inspired iconic fictional characters such as Norman Bates in Psycho and Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs. He exhumed corpses from local graveyards, fashioning trophies and keepsakes from their bones and skin. His macabre legacy continues to haunt popular culture. Known as the High Priestess of Blood, Magdalena Solis led a cult in the 1960s that committed ritualistic murders in the small village of Yerba Buena. Manipulating her followers through religious fanaticism, she claimed to be a reincarnation of an ancient Aztec goddess. Solis's reign of terror remains one of the most chilling episodes in cult history. Edmund Kemper, the necrophilic serial killer, operated in Poland during the 1970s. Targeting women in cemeteries and mortuaries, Kemper was known for dismembering his victims and engaging in necrophilic acts. His horrifying deeds left an indelible mark on criminal history. Dubbed the Terminator, Anatoly Onoprienko was a Ukrainian serial killer responsible for the murders of 52 people, including entire families, between 1989 and 1996. Claimed voices commanded him to kill. Onoprienko's brutal spree ended with a life sentence in prison. In the 1960s, Mumbai was gripped with fear as Raman Raghav, also known as Psycho Raman, targeted homeless individuals and slum dwellers. His brutal crimes, committed with a blunt object, led to widespread panic and earned him a place in the annals of serial killers. Yang Xinhai, the monster killer, confessed to murdering 67 people between 1999 and 2003 in a series of home invasions across China. Convicted of multiple counts of murder, rape, and robbery, Yang was executed in 2004, ending one of the most terrifying killing sprees in Chinese history. Tsutomu Miyazaki. Known as the Otaku Murderer, Tsutomu Miyazaki abducted and murdered 4 young girls in Japan between 1988 and 1989. His grotesque acts of necrophilia and cannibalism, along with his collection of disturbing videotapes, shocked the nation. Miyazaki was executed in 2008. Thomas Neil Cream, the Lambeth poisoner, was a Scottish-Canadian doctor who murdered several women in London using strychnine during the late 19th century. Cream's reign of terror ended with his execution in 1892, but his sinister legacy lives on. Joachim Kroll, known as the Ruhr cannibal, confessed to murdering 14 people, including children, between 1955 and 1976 in Germany. Arrested after human remains clogged his apartment's plumbing, Kroll's gruesome acts of cannibalism shocked the world. Andrei Chikatilo, the Rostov Ripper, committed at least 52 murders of women and children in the Soviet Union between 1978 and 1990. His heinous crimes, involving mutilation and cannibalism, led to his execution in 1994. Bevan Spencer von Einem, an Australian convicted murderer and suspected serial killer, was involved in the notorious family murders of young men in Adelaide during the late 1970s and early 1980s. Sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of Richard Kelvin in 1984, von Einem's case remains one of Australia's most infamous. Nigerian serial killer Gracious David West confessed to the murders of at least 15 women in various hotels across Nigeria in 2019. Targeting vulnerable women, he strangled them before stealing their belongings. His reign of terror ended with his arrest. Ramadan Mansour, also known as Al-Turbini, was an Egyptian serial killer and gang leader responsible for the abduction, rape, and murder of street children in the early 2000s. Convicted of his horrific crimes, Mansour was executed in 2010. Catherine Monvoisin, known as La Voisin, was a French fortune teller and poisoner involved in the notorious affair of the Poissons during the reign of Louis XIV. Executed in 1680 for witchcraft, poisoning, and infanticide, her story is a dark chapter in French history. Leonarda Cianciulli, the soap maker of Correggio, murdered 3 women in Italy between 1939 and 1940. Believing human sacrifices would protect her son in World War II, she used their bodies to make soap and tea cakes. Cianciulli's gruesome acts led to her arrest and imprisonment. Cedric Maca, known as the Hammer Killer, terrorized Johannesburg in the late 1990s, murdering at least 27 people with various weapons, including rocks and hammers. Sentenced to 1,340 years in prison, Maca's brutal spree left a lasting scar on South Africa. Luísa de Jesus, the foundling wheel killer, was an 18th-century Portuguese serial killer who murdered at least 33 abandoned infants left at the foundling wheel in Coimbra. Executed in 1772, she was Portugal's last woman to be executed by hanging. Juan Severino Mayari, a Filipino parish priest, murdered 57 people in the early 19th century, using their blood for black magic rituals aimed at curing his mother's illness. Arrested and executed in 1840, Malari's dark legacy remains a chilling tale. José Antonio Rodriguez Vega, the old lady killer, murdered at least 16 elderly women in Santander, Spain, during the late 1980s. Known for sexually assaulting and strangling his victims, Vega was a terrifying figure in Spanish criminal history. These individuals, driven by dark impulses and unimaginable cruelty, have left behind legacies of fear and horror. Their stories serve as grim reminders of the depths of human depravity. Stay tuned for more explorations into the darkest corners of history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more chilling tales. Thank you for watching.